Today on the news and why it matters, a doctored video surfaces of fake Trump shooting the mainstream media and critics.
No, fake mainstream media.
Fake everything in the video. Wall-to-wall coverage of it, but they may be missing a few details in their evening broadcast that we can give you just to clarify things. Don't change the channel. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by the one and only Glenn Beck.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Stubergear, who there's probably a few like him.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, so, and Aaron Cullen, reporter from theblaze.com. Thank you guys for being here. We got a lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing.
American Financing is a place that if you are looking for a home loan, you're looking for a refi, or you're looking for a consolidation loan, these are the people I trust. I've trusted them for a very, very long time. Stu has used them. I have used them. And they're just really meticulous. They really listen to you. Unfortunately, they were really listening to him. He didn't get the loan because he's insane. They were like, that's not really, that seems pretty risky. He's like, uh-huh. They're like, yeah, we don't do that. So if you're fiscally responsible, American Finance are the people for you. Call them up. They're waiting for your phone call now. 10 minutes will help you figure out if you can get a loan, refi, or consolidate. Please consolidate your high-interest debt and put it under your mortgage. You don't even have to expand the years, and you're going to save a lot of money at American Financing. 800-906-2440, AmericanFinancing.net.
So over the weekend, there was a breaking news story. I think it was the New York Times who published it first, saying that there was a graphic video of Donald Trump, a fake Donald Trump, obviously, shooting fake members of mainstream media, and it was shown at his resort. This video was shown at his resort. Can you believe he would do something like that?
No, so wait a minute. So these are very wealthy people at his resort, and they saw all this, and they're going to, of course, go, because they're the type that just gets their gun and then just goes stalk people, right?
A mass shooting by Mar-a-Lago members.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
Do we have the actual video, or is this just, okay, so there's the picture right there. And this is, what is this from, the Kingpin?
Kingsman.
Kingsman, sorry.
Yeah, the first one, the one that was good. The second one was
the second was horrible. So, so if there's a CNN blockhead, or a Politico guy with a blockhead, or a CNBC guy with a blockhead, they're in danger today. They're in danger.
That is specifically targeting the blockheads. You are correct. You are correct.
So this scene is a very violent scene, and it's from the first Kingsman, and I love the story of the Kingsman, at least the first one, because it was a guy who was all about global warming.
Yeah, it was the villain, the arch villain was a guy who was so into global warming he wanted everyone to die to protect the planet. Which is like, how do they make this movie? How did this get made? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, and that one was for laughs. They're actually saying we should eat our babies now. So here's this movie that halfway through, the media loved it, absolutely loved this. They had no problem with this guy, this character, having a chip in his head that makes him do whatever the bad guy wants him to do. Isn't it a chip in his head or something?
I don't remember if that's this scene or not. That was one of the scenes.
No, he was out of control. He was out of control, yeah.
Killing everybody in the church?
Yeah, he was a chip in the head, I think. So it doesn't matter, but he goes into this church, and it's violent, very, very violent. Kills everybody, slaughters everybody. Now, the media didn't have a problem with that when that was a so-called, as they reported, conservative church.
From the Deep South.
From the Deep South. In the movie, it's like a Westboro Baptist crazy church, okay? It's not a conservative church, but they didn't have a problem with it. Well, wait a minute, hang on. You didn't have a problem when they were actual people in a church that you just claimed was a conservative church. But you think because people have their heads covered with blocks that say CBS and CNN, that somehow or another is going to, excuse me? Are you on is everyone on LSD?
Yeah.
Yes, I think when it comes to the media, the answer is yes.
Yeah, because the case seems to be that if Trump is shooting these, these media logos, that somehow this is going to encourage people to go shoot people who actually work at the media companies or something. First of all, this video has been out for over a year, so we know it actually hasn't happened, right? Like number one is
not yet.
Right, yeah, I got
it.
It takes time. Time release. This is a time release.
That's true.
And now that they've made a big thing out of it, more people have seen it.
Yeah, of course, much more people. So if they actually thought this was legitimate, they wouldn't do it. Secondarily, I don't know if you saw Andy No, who we've talked about before, and what he found, which he was actually at the event when the thing was being played, and showed video of it, and it's in this room, in like the back, where it's like, it was some like display on meme culture.
Yeah, meme art installation.
Meme art installation. It's just an empty room. There's no one in there watching it. No. Like, it was just basically like one of those things they threw in as part of the event, but like no one was even looking at it. So like basically nobody even saw that it happened. And we know that like it is a typical tactic, right? Like they have to, whenever there's something violent on the right, they have to say it's going to eventually lead to violence. When there's people shooting up, at Republicans on a softball field, that has nothing to do with the left. They want to have it both ways, and because they are the arbiters, they get it both ways, at least in their own eyes. I mean, it's up to us to make sure they're held responsible for this nonsense, because it is nonsense. There's the Kingsman has no responsibility if someone goes and shoots up a church. It's a freaking movie. If a person goes up and does something like that, they have absolutely no responsibility for it. The same thing with Joker. The same thing with whatever person made this jib-jab looking meme that can possibly affect somebody to do something like this.
You notice that they don't point to the person who made it. They swear that it's almost like Trump was in there watching it himself, cheering it on the way that's being covered. So they're not assigning accountability to the person who made this
Although it does look like a video that he would have made.
Well, that's what
I mean, it's that bad.
I genuinely was like, did he retweet something again? Yeah. What is going on here? No, he didn't retweet it. He didn't. In fact, the White House has already come out and condemned it. They've already condemned. They said Donald Trump has not actually seen the video, but by the description, obviously we condemn it, because that's what the left was saying. Well, he should immediately come out and condemn it. Okay, he did.
Shut up.
And he had nothing to do with it. It was an event that was being held. It was what? American Priority Conference.
What can you not find on the internet? You can find something for anything on the internet, and you can tie it to anybody if you want to, and it doesn't mean anything. And so it's interesting how selective the New York Times is with making this a big story and saying, look what Trump supporters are about. And nobody's even endorsing this at all. The
New York Times, who, wasn't it less than a year ago, published like a fake assassination. It was like an assassination fantasy about Trump.
Yeah, we've seen that with, wasn't he getting killed in the park in every, in the a mock Macbeth thing? They had Kathy Griffin, holding that bloody head up. We had a Bush assassination film when he was in office. This is every single time. The left does it every time. They just ignore it when it's on their side. Like, they understand the art. The people who are on the right are too dumb, and they're going to go wind up imitating the meme that they saw. And it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous double standard that I think in reality they know isn't true. But they know they can win this news cycle, and then next news cycle they'll reverse their position and they'll win it another way. It's embarrassing.
Meanwhile, you've got the media not paying as much attention to things that probably we should be talking about, like Hunter Biden has now stepped down from the Chinese, the board that he was a part of. And we've got Adam Schiff, who came out over the weekend and said, maybe we shouldn't have the whistleblower testify. I don't really feel like it's that important anymore. We don't really need any context from him. None of these stories are getting talked about, Glenn.
Well, the Hunter Biden coming out is getting talked about. He's going to be on ABC's Good Morning America tomorrow talking about it. Guarantee you. I'm
sure they're
walking through the garden again.
Yes.
And those are always hard hitting.
Yes.
I know whenever I've been set up by the press, they always have me walking in a garden. They're not going to ask him any of the tough questions, at least with follow-up questions. I just outlined 5 or 6 questions here today that have to be asked, or you'll know immediately this is a bogus interview. This is a campaign commercial done by ABC. But you'll also notice that he did say that he would step down. However, what he didn't give up was
stake in the company.
His stake in the company. Oh, so you're not going to have to work for all that money. Oh, boo-hoo. He's not giving up his stake in the company.
I hereby announce I'm stepping down from this program.
Really?
Yeah, I'm still gonna get paid, obviously. But, I'm not gonna do any more shows.
I mean, that's crazy.
He's like, I'm stepping down from my unpaid board position, but I'm not giving up my stake in the company. By the way, there was nothing wrong with it, but I'm just stepping down for you guys, is kind of what he's saying.
Yeah.
And so he's playing both sides of this thing here.
The guy is completely out of control. I actually feel bad for Hunter Biden, not because of this. He made his bed and his dad helped him make it. So his dad was there the whole time. I feel bad for Hunter Biden because he's so out of control. He is so clearly, what's that movie, that series on HBO about, is it
Succession?
Succession? Has anybody watched that?
About halfway through the first season there.
Okay,
Pretty good.
so the son, the one that's running the company, that's Hunter Biden. Dad is just chewing him up and spitting him out. And
Interesting.
he's completely out of control, and there's no place in Succession or in this where Dad's like, son, you need to get away. You need to get away. You need to stop. This kid is out of control.
His personal life has been a disaster. It's interesting. I didn't.
You feel for him.
I kind of do get there's a fatherly thing with Joe Biden. Like, I wonder how much of him not running in 2016 had to do with Beau, who passed away, or Hunter, who was in the middle of like 970 trips to rehab in 2016. Like, it was like probably his worst year.
But at the same time, he's loading his son up.
Yeah, it's hard
I
to
want to
feel
talk
bad
about
for
an
him.
enabler. Here's son, here's $1.5 billion.
Yeah, and they, there's a disagreement amongst the Bidens as to whether they've ever talked about this before, because Joe Biden keeps telling the cameras over and over again that they've never talked about it. But Hunter Biden has said the opposite. He said they have had a passing conversation about it. And the reason why I think it's important is basically the way it was portrayed by Hunter was Joe came to him and said, I hope you know what you're doing with all this stuff. And Hunter was like, yeah, no, I do. Now, this is a person who's in the middle of like 950 personal disasters.
Yeah.
He
And
divorces his wife. He starts to date his brother's widow while she's grieving.
oh my gosh.
He goes through all kinds of crack and cocaine. He's in and out of rehab. All of this is happening while, hey, I hope you know what you're doing with this Burisma thing. Dad,
And somehow they
I
want
clearly don't have any idea what I'm doing.
somehow they want us to believe he's qualified to sit on all these boards of international companies, and there's no nepotism going on at all. But it's clear he's not fit to be in these positions, and here he is.
Who would hire, sincerely, what responsible company that was not engaged in nepotism or whatever would hire this kid?
One of his relapses came after drinking with the guy who hired him at Burisma. Like, they were like involved in his personal disasters. And of course, this is a way to get leverage over somebody, right? I mean, there's all sorts of problems here. And there has to be some sort of separation, right? Where Biden can do what he's doing. These countries, right, are hiring Hunter Biden because they know he's tied to the vice president. That is 100% the only reason you would do it. That doesn't mean that Joe Biden arranged it. We don't have full evidence on that. It just looks incredibly suspicious. The biggest problem, though, is what Peter Schweizer said. And he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, and the New York Times asked him to write it, which was what Hunter Biden and Joe Biden did was not illegal, and that's the problem. This is incredibly corrupt. These guys get control of this, and then it's not even a crime.
Could I go back, though, to having it both ways? At the same time, now they're bringing up Rex Tillerson. Oh, look it. Donald Trump had Rex Tillerson. I mean, why would you hire an oil guy? I don't know. The entire world is on fire and war about oil. Saudi Arabia is about to go under. We're about to have the biggest energy reserve in the world of all time. We're now there. That's just coming up at the top. You know that Russia is playing Europe for oil. You know that we want to sell oil to Europe to make sure that they're not beholden to them, instead beholden to us. You got a guy who has how many thousands of employees, from people who are deep sea explorers, which is about the same as sending a man to space, and he's doing massive deals, and he knows all of the leadership is certainly in the Middle East, and any oil company, they don't question what Joe Biden's son, who's out of control with no experience, is doing on those boards. but Rex Tillerson is a stretch?
Incredible.
All right, back in a minute. I also love how the treatment in the media of him saying he said that he won't work for foreign-owned firms if Joe Biden becomes elected. Before we get back into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor, who we here at BlazeTV are very thankful for, because it's made Glenn like not
less grumpy.
Yeah, not grumpy anymore. Well, less grumpy. That's a better way to put it.
I'm still grumpy sometimes, not really. Relief Factor has worked for me. It has worked for so many people. It's funny. I just got, what was her name? Pamela. Got that note from Pamela today. She's a listener of ours, and she had pain sleeping on her side. She's about my age, and she's always slept on her side. Had the same problem. I couldn't sleep because the pain in my shoulder was so bad because I was sleeping on the side. And their doctor was like, no, don't sleep on your side. Oh, really? After 55 years? Oh, yeah, that's going to work out well. So I stared at the ceiling, and so did she. She started doing what I did, take Relief Factor, and it's gone. She's now sleeping on her side again. Thanks, Doc. Thanks to Relief Factor. Go to Relief Factor. The number is on the bottom of the screen. There it is. Or just go to relieffactor.com. Order the 3-week quick start.
So Joe Biden, speaking of the Bidens, Joe Biden was speaking at a presidential forum yesterday and had a little bit to say about this impeachment inquiry. He kind of patting himself on the back for that one. Watch.
I may be the last guy to publicly call for impeachment, but I'm the only reason there is impeachment going on. Because this president I've written extensively about how this president, our democracy is literally at stake. It's not a joke. This is the most corrupt administration in modern American history.
Oh my. Oh my gosh.
You have a little bit to say about that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is provable. Talk to Peter Schweitzer. Provable. This guy is the most corrupt vice president in our nation's history. The things that he has been involved in and the funneling of money. Oh my gosh, to say that. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is clean. I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence. But we have seen the evidence of Joe Biden, and nobody seems to care about it. I can't take, this is the most transparent, this administration had zero hearings on anything. Yeah, because everybody who said, hey, maybe we should hear this, maybe we should look into this, you said was a racist, a conspiracy theorist, or somebody who should be destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't take it.
Still, is this a little bit of projection coming from Joe Biden?
A little bit. I will say, from a political candidate standpoint, I actually like the approach. I think it's not a great delivery here, but the concept of, hey, you know what? You guys all wanted impeachment for a couple of years. Who's the guy that got it for you here? It's because this guy's terrified of me. He's calling around, he's giving you the most overt actions. We all knew he was corrupt, right? Again, this is not me talking, but we all knew the guy was corrupt. But here he had to prove it. And the reason he proved it is because he's flailing, because he's terrified of me. That's exactly what I would be going with.
That's not what he did.
He's on the path to that, I think. He's just not delivering it very well. But it is, I think, the right approach for him because this issue is not going away. You can't ignore it away. So you might as well try to make it into a positive. And so far, he's dabbled in that world. It'll be interesting to see if maybe with the Hunter Biden interview and the debate tomorrow that if he's any more overt with it, more explicit about going after this.
What are they going to ask him at the debate? Did you hear Chuck Todd this weekend? He wouldn't even tolerate a question about Joe Biden. I wouldn't even tolerate that. What?
And that's why he can stand up there so boldly and say that with a smile on his face, because he knows he's got the cover. He's not going to get challenged on it by the other candidates. He's not going to get asked about it at the debate. So he can say that and people will just take it and run with it, when in reality it's the most contradictory thing you could imagine him saying, but he feels so comfortable in his position that he's going to carry this all the way through the primary.
Yeah. There was the impeachment inquiry was going on today. There was closed-door testimony. Did you guys hear this big, kerfuffle between Adam Schiff and Matt Gaetz? I guess Matt Gaetz was not on any of the committees that were supposed to be in this testimony, but he is on the Judiciary Committee, who is usually involved in anything impeachment.
Sure.
And he wanted to go listen as a member of Congress and a member of the Judiciary Committee, and Adam Schiff kicked him out. And so he's fired up about it. Trump's base is fired up about it. That's a tough one, though, for me, because the rules are the rules, right? So if they only are allowing certain committees in there, does he have the right to be in there anyway?
I
feel like it's all optics. It's just this dog and pony show, and who can get their base more riled up, and it's frustrating.
What I don't like about this is the secret meetings on only half.
Yeah.
Even when Nixon did this, they appointed a guy in charge of the initial impeachment hearings who was really kind of a nobody. He was not a showboat. He wasn't real popular with anybody. He was just known as a meticulous guy. And so they put him in charge of it. And one of the first things he said was, this is important for the Republic, and we all have to do this and do our best. And he was talking to both sides of the aisle. And they all met and they had their meetings, and some of them were secret, many of them were public. And they took it apart piece by piece. That doesn't mean that the apparatus around it, but the people inside, if you don't let the other side in, if this is all secret meetings, this is an abomination. Yeah. It's an abomination.
Stu, last word.
Look, I mean, I think this is a political process almost entirely, and this is it's just a matter of time. They've already committed to impeachment. If they're going to eventually impeach this guy, whether there's facts on their side or not. So, and most likely, unless something major changes, it's not going to go through the Senate, and we're going to know exactly where we are. I don't think anything's going to change in the next 6 months, except the fact that we're going to be voting for the next president of the United States, and I don't know why we just don't all wait and utilize our
because they want to win the Senate. This is an attempt for them to make the case in all three branches. They have the House, and the House will impeach no matter what they find. Yeah. Then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate has to vote, should these be heard or not? And if they do, then it goes to trial, okay? Waste of money. At this point, waste of money. Maybe they find something, but it goes to trial. If they decide not to take it to trial, just to reject it, just vote on it as is. We've looked at them, no trial, this is garbage. The left can say, this is why we need to control the Senate. It's not enough to have the House. We need the House, we need the White House, and we need the Senate. And they're just going to push and say all of the Republican Party, all branches are dirty unless you have one party, and we'll clean it up.
Oh, God, that's terrifying. Okay, back in a minute.
I mean, doesn't that sound legitimate?
For their audience.
Can you figure out another reason why they might be doing this other than insanity?
Before we go, we got a couple minutes here. Glenn, what are your thoughts really quickly on what's happening with Turkey, moving into Syria? We've got the...
I don't think it's going to help the president. I really don't. The pictures that are coming out, I'm getting... Our people are down on the ground for the Nazarene Fund. And so I'm getting first-hand accounts and videos and pictures. I tweeted one today, and I don't know if I should have. It was a brother and sister, and they were laying on this gurney being worked on by the hospital. He died, she lived, but her leg is blown off. And they're just people trying to escape from, the warfare. I posted something earlier this morning, some video I got last night of our people on the border. We sent in operatives to go get a bunch of Christians. We had all these jeeps and trucks that were waiting for them at the border so we could get them out. I'm tired of talking about it. At least we're doing something about it. And if you want to help us, please join us at NazareneFund.org, the NazareneFund.org.
You can also
go ahead.
You can also buy a ticket to the M1 ball. It's coming up.
Yeah, M1 ball is coming up a week from Saturday. Is it a week from Saturday? 2 weeks? It's like the 20th.
The 26th.
26th. And it happens here in Dallas. And this is how we raise money so we can pay for all of the light bills and everything else. So when we say Nazarene Fund 100% goes to that, it does. But we would really like you to buy a ticket, a table. Even if you don't show up, we'll find somebody to sit there. But we would love for you to help us. And you can find that at mercury1.org/M1ball.
All right, overtime is coming up. Stay with us.